Welcome to Trance Talks. This is Susan Marco, and I hope you find this conversation as engaging as I did. Have a great day and enjoy. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Trance Talks, where we have conversations about multiple modalities and disciplines for your healing and self growth. And I am so excited to be sitting here today with this beautiful woman, Megan Spaeth, who is a licensed acupuncturist and a beautiful person. We know each other for a few years now and have been sort of following each other. And so happy to be able to introduce her to you. So, without getting into too much detail, Megan, tell my listeners, who are you and what do you do?
Um, I am Megan Spaeth. I am a licensed acupuncturist. I've been practicing in New Jersey for over 15 years now. And it has been, I mean, I don't know. I always call acupuncture life-changing, and it almost doesn't do it as much justice because it's a really amazing, amazing medicine. Um, I came across it. We, I had grown up, my mom had found more holistic medicine. Are you familiar with anthroposophy?
I've heard the term, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
So, Rudolf Steiner, he's the one who created the Waldorf schools. He also created the system of medicine called anthroposophy. And it's talks about the reflection that humans reflect their environment, and we're one with nature and how we use nature to harmonize our interior. So when we were younger, when I was one, I had like a kind of a anaphylactic reaction to the MMR vaccine. And it happened to one of my sisters as well. So my mom, was obviously very nervous about this and couldn't get any answers anywhere. And through some family, she found this anthroposophic physician. So they're usually MDs or osteopaths who then go through extra training in anthroposophy. And a lot of the treatments that they use are homeopathy. So we grew up with this, this sense of the world and this sense of medicine, which is very different from allopathic medicine. Allopathic medicine is gives things that are different than what we have. So if we have bacteria, they give us an antibiotic, if we have an infection. If we have a histamine response, we get an antihistamine. If we're congested, we get a decongestant. So that's the typical Western allopathic model versus many more holistic modalities are different. Homeopathy is like treats like. So, how do you use your environment around you to treat what's inside of you? So, this is the way that I kind of grew up. And I always felt like I was called to be a healer, to be in medicine myself. And I used to, I'm the oldest of five children. And I used to remember like my siblings, if they were ever hurt, I would like pretend I knew how to treat them. My sister got a cut outside and I would like grab a leaf and I'd be like, this leaf is a healing leaf. And we'd rub it on and um, and I got a cold and I remember asking my mom, like, what exactly do I do to get rid of this? And, the time it was like orange juice, which looking back, like a ton of sugar is not ideal, but like, I remember I was probably 5 and I set up on my couch with like my tissues and my orange juice. It's just like I liked to learn how to treat the body with what the body has, with what nature has. So I always thought that I would go to medical school myself. And then I started college pre-med and I hated every second of it. It was just like, this is not me. This doesn't make sense to me. This is not, the strengths I think I was given intellectually did not match this kind of biomedical model. So I was like, well, what else? What am I supposed to do? I thought it was medicine. Maybe it's not medicine. So I started, like the aptitude tests you take in high school to figure out like what are you good at. And for me, everything was coming up like communications and people skills. And so I went to school for communications and I majored doing a lot of documentary work. And I was like, this is how I'm going to make a difference in the world. I'm going to go travel and I'm going to go to these communities of people who are, underprivileged. And I'm going to show the world like this is their situation. This is how they need help. And then in reality, I got a pretty good job as an editor right after I graduated, but I was like stuck in a basement all by myself. And I was putting stories together, which felt really right to me, like putting pieces together to create this whole. But even the end goal of it, I'm like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. Of course, I got to pay my dues and work in the basement at first, but even working the way up, I'm like, this isn't it. It's medicine somehow. So I just prayed a lot. I was living at my parents at the time, and this job I was doing was a night job. So I would come home and I would just like kind of stand outside my parents' house for a while. And there's this like tree in the front yard that we always used to play under. And I used to just like kneel under it and pray. And I would just ask God, like, I know there's something specific that you want for me. Like, I am your servant. Help me help your people. Like, what is it? Show it to me. Help me find it. And I was also specific, about what I wanted it to do for me too. I wanted to use it to serve others, but I also wanted to be fulfilled by it and it to be something that came naturally to me and, made me feel good. So I was, specific. And my mom had also kind of taught us about the power of positive thinking when we were younger and about manifestation and, how you have to like ask for what you want and be specific. And so I asked for a job where I could be my own boss, have my own business. I could work part-time and be home with my children. Gave me flexibility and freedom. And so, this was all part of the request. And then it was probably a couple months of this, and I was sitting and I was kind of feeling like depressed at the time, like it was a tough time. I think I remember calling it a quarter life crisis, and my mom and my aunt were like, "Oh my God." Like, but that time after college, when you don't know what you want to do, and you just had like the best, most fun time of your life. And I had traveled abroad and like, seeing everything, everyone. And now you're like, at your parents' house and working in a basement and, you know,
This isn't
um,
what I thought it was going to be.
yeah, you're like, all right, well, where am I going next? So, but I was I knew like we were blessed with a sense of faith. I think growing up, my parents really instilled that in us. So I knew that the answer would come. But I remember sitting at the table and thinking like, okay, what is it going to be? Is it going to be am I going to be a therapist? Am I going to be like a physical therapist or maybe a chiropractor or like I'm like, how can I be like Oprah or like, like all these different ideas. And then my mom, out of nowhere, we were obviously into holistic medicine, but out of nowhere, she got an acupuncture treatment. Just colleagues at her work recommended it, and she got an acupuncture treatment. And we're home sitting at the table with my mom and my sister, and she's like, "This is amazing." Like I had hot flashes every day, all day. My elbow was in so much pain, I couldn't get the milk out of the refrigerator. And I feel like amazing. I haven't had a hot flash all day. My elbow's fine. And everything was like ding, 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 ding. And my sister was like, I could see you doing that. And I'm like, but is it weird? This is back in 2005 or 2006.
Mm,
Acupuncture's seen a lot more recognition now, but then it really wasn't.
yeah.
So people are going to think I'm weird, but I just got so excited and I walked over to the computer and I started researching and everything that was coming up. My main thought was like, I will be enriched for the rest of my life.
Mm,
Like, this medicine is over 3,500 years old. That's the oldest text is 3,500 years. There's some archaeological evidence that shows perhaps it's like 5,000 years old. Like I will can learn the rest of my life. And I went for a run that day. And I don't enjoy running, but it's just, it was something I was doing to be healthy. And my parents lived in this beautiful kind of wooded area. So I was running through the woods. I felt like nature was rejoicing for me. Like the plants were just like alive and everything was like, this is it. This is it. And so we went to some schools to, open houses. And I went to one open house. And the dean of the program was Dr. Jeffrey Yuen. He's an 88th generation Taoist priest. and he teaches his lineage of medicine. And hearing him speak like blew me away. I was like taking notes at the open house. He's the real deal. He's one of the most sought after teachers in the world today. And so I enrolled in his school. An acupuncture school is anywhere from 3 to 4 years typically. If you do herbs, it's even longer. But I finished it in 3 years through the summer program, and I was in Manhattan, and it's like, my life was changing. I was changing like through it all. And it's a really beautiful medicine. It's based off of Taoist philosophy. So, um, Taoism is this like, it's this beautiful, some people call it a religion, some it's more like a philosophy, but it's the medicine is like an applied philosophy. So it's filled with symbolism and a lot of like poetry. And we try to say, like, how can we, similar to anthroposophy, which I grew up with, how can we map this universe on ourselves, and just learning about how we're the microcosm and the planet at large is the macrocosm, and God imbued this map inside of us. It's running through us, through our body parts, through our organs, through our flesh, through our skin, through our muscles, and it's this inherent map of wellness. And so how do we use this to be the healthiest and most balanced and most comfortable versions of ourselves? And when we are that, then we spread that. And, just by trying to be the most comfortable and healthiest versions of ourselves, we naturally and automatically start to, spread that light into the world. So it's been amazing. I started my practice. I graduated in 2009, and I covered a woman's maternity leave and then started my own practice. Um, and it's been amazing. Now we're in Wall Township, and I have 3 other acupuncturists who work for me, and we're all part-time. We're home with our families the other days of the week, and just spreading like a lot of healing and
Yeah.
light. So it's really wonderful.
You mentioned in your bio about Dr. Wen and that he presented you with a character. Can you tell our
Yeah, so
that a
he
little bit? Because I think, knowing you, it's like so right on, so fits you.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, at graduation, Jeffrey, he does calligraphy characters, like Chinese characters. And the way he teaches acupuncture is a lot of it is, well, it's all based on the text, the classical texts. So um, he teaches what's called classical acupuncture versus TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine, is a more standardized version of acupuncture that was created in the 1950s under the communist realm. Um, and so Jeffrey's grandfather emigrated and left China before this happened because he foresaw it. He knew it was going to happen, this like religious and medical persecution. So he left and went to the United States, and then continued to teach this lineage of medicine. During the standardization of it, they took all the, famous or best doctors from the country and said, come up with a standard of medicine that's much more like Western medicine, where you have these symptoms, these are the treatments, this is the acupuncture points, these are the herbs that you use, and we're going to get rid of a lot of the more spiritual stuff. We could keep some of the emotional stuff, but a lot of the deep stuff has got to go. We need to be able to train the masses quickly, and we need to prove scientifically, keep up with these growing times that it works. So anyone who treated outside of these. So there were about somewhere around 66 acupuncture channels. They refined them down to 12 or 14, you could say. So all this other beauty, they kind of talk about it, but you don't learn. You will learn the opening point, maybe. You don't really learn a lot of it. So my teacher's grandfather was teaching that. My teacher is teaching that. His students are teaching that. And there's really nowhere else in the world where you can learn that now because China, is still
Sure.
under very rule. So they're still teaching TCM. And TCM is amazing. Like
Mhm.
it was a wonderful thing that happened because it enabled a lot more people to get acupuncture and
Right.
a lot more people to learn acupuncture. So it is a really wonderful thing and it's really effective. There is just more depth to classical Chinese medicine. Um, so my teacher at graduation for each of his students, he does a character that he feels like reflects them or what he knows of them. And he gave me a character called Ming, and it translates to brightness. Um, and in his little speech, he said, may Megan or Megan's smile like lights up the room. May she continue to bring light to her patients and, to all those around her. And it was an amazing moment for me because I had through school kind of been connecting this healing mechanism to light. And I felt like he had said once, to like acupuncture needles help bring light into the darkness. And through that illumination is how we begin to change.
Mm.
I felt like that was part of my, and I felt like I was really supposed to do something. I was meant to do something in this world. I think that was it. Like through my light, ask it to come either through me or just around me, whatever it is, but to help empower others to be able to see the light, to see their own light reflected. So yeah, that was a really beautiful moment.
I love that. Um, and what I was thinking as you were saying that is that, like, if you're thinking about going to have acupuncture, like what a beautiful metaphor that is. And beyond the metaphor is that, yeah, do you want to lighten up? Do you
Yeah.
want to feel lighter in your body, in your soul, in your, you know, expression in the world? And you bring that to people, which I'm loving this conversation because we can talk about, meridians and acupuncture and how it all works and all of that. But this is like the depth of it,
Yeah.
like what's underneath that for someone when they seek out or when you choose acupuncture. I mean, there's obviously, I have a pain in my neck or I have digestive issues or, you know, whatever the someone might seek you out for. There's way more to it than just fixing symptoms or, it's you really are treating the body as an energetic whole. And that idea of bringing the light in, that really speaks to me in a big way. And I think to a lot of the people who are listening. So, but that being said, so who comes to see you? Like who is your client base or, how
Yeah,
do you?
we have I call it a family practice. Some people kind of specialize in pain management. Some people specialize in, maybe digestive issues or whatever it is. But I call what we have as a family practice. So we have, I would say mostly women. I think that's probably true to a lot of, healing in general, even people that go to the doctors, a lot of them are women or men who get kind of like shoved in by their with their wives or something. But maybe 80% women, 70% women. Um, we really love treating the family unit. So a lot of people come for fertility to
Mhm.
try to get pregnant. And once they get pregnant, they stay and we treat them through their pregnancies, which is like just the best honor. And then they have their babies, and ideally, they come to take care of themselves postpartum. And one of our favorite things to treat is actually pediatrics. So that is a little bit rare. Like, we don't learn pediatrics per se in school. It is a little bit different because their bodies are growing so fast and their energy is moving so fast. Um, So it is a little bit different from typical acupuncture. And we don't usually use needles on them. So the acupuncture needles that we do use are very, very fine. They're like the gauge of a dog's whisker. They're really flexible. When you look at them, it's like, oh, that's not a needle. We
Yeah,
can fit
exactly.
tons of them inside the typical needle that you get blood drawn with, so they're tiny. Um, most we have the little guide tubes that they come in. They're these little plastic tubes that go on the skin, and you tap the needle in. Some people don't feel anything at all except for the little plastic on the skin. Sometimes you'll feel a little poke or like little like a fingernail tapping your skin. Um, and then once it's in, you can feel your chi. And chi is a word that stands for, one translation is that it's our living energy. And that's ultimately what we're moving in acupuncture. What we're trying to do is move the living energy in the body to send very specific messages to the body. So that's the difference. Like what points you pick, that kind of makes the difference about what message you send. So how we send the message, for most adults, we use the actual acupuncture needles. So they're like antennas. They just call the energy towards the point, and then the body knows what to do. We usually give it a message with our intention, and then the body takes it. Um, with children, you don't really need needles because their energy is moving so fast and they're so malleable. And so for them, we typically would use these little tools that look like the spoons. We use tuning forks. We use like heat therapy. We use like gems and stones. Um, Cupping or gua sha, moxa, which is a form of an herb that's like a heat therapy. So we use all these things in a very dynamic way on the children. We're like brushing the skin and tapping the points. And depending on the age, some of them will sit on the massage table, some of them are running around and we're kind of chasing them with it. Um, if they do need needles, we just tap them in and usually pull them right back out. Sometimes we leave them in for a couple minutes. Usually the younger kids are not afraid yet. They don't know to be afraid. So we can needle them no problem. As they get a little older, they're afraid, and we want it to be a really, really like wonderful, relaxing, healing experience for them. So we don't use them if we don't need them. Um, so that's we really love treating that. But we definitely have a lot of patients who come for pain management and insomnia and sleep issues, different types of like, you know, depression, anxiety, anger, all the emotions that we naturally feel as humans. But sometimes when it becomes overwhelming and we can't, like, through our own ability, turn it off, or harmonize it. And so, what acupuncture is trying to do. So all the organs are connected with different mental processes and different emotions. So if we want to treat anger, typically we're treating the liver, the gallbladder. That's what it deals with anger. The mental process of that is control and planning. So those are all, usually kind of together. Um, Anxiety is typically the heart, which also has joy in it. But so sometimes there's like, okay, if there's too much anxiety, let's try to calm the anxiety, increase the joy, trying to like balance. Depression and sadness, lethargy would be more considered the lungs.
Mhm.
Um, and that mental process of the lungs is order. It really likes order. So, the patient comes in and we treat them as a whole. So yes, if they're coming in for pain, but we never treat the same issue the same way on different patients. So we have to figure out, why is the pain there? Is it psychosomatic pain, from like long-term suppressed emotions?
Mhm.
Is it more acute pain from an injury or posture issue? Is it from something else? So is it from not enough blood circulating through the area? They don't have enough blood. We have to build it up for them. Is it from, too much dampness, like a lot of sticky energy in the body? So that's how we try to figure out for each patient. And we figure that out by having a detailed intake, by taking the pulses, we take the radial pulse on the wrist, different positions that each finger rests on, tells the energy of different organs. So that's a big form of diagnosis. We look at the tongue, it represents a map of the body. So different parts of the tongue tell us about different organs. And again, it tells us about the organs. We're also looking at the emotional and mental part of those organs because there's no way to separate that in Chinese medicine. It's all completely connected. Like, I had a patient who didn't really want me. I should, like, I learned I just shouldn't really talk about the more spiritual side with him. He's like, can you please just treat my pain? I'm like, well, there's no such thing, but I won't talk about it. Like, I'll just treat your pain. There's no way, it's not possible to just treat it physically. Like, your body's going to do the rest of the work. Like, it's just all interconnected. And then from there, it gets a lot more um, in depth and complicated because all the organs are connected to each other. So diagnosing, sometimes we're trying to like peel the layers of the onion to see like, okay, well, it's in the liver right now, but I'm not sure it came from the liver. I think it's coming from the lungs overacting on the liver, or so you have to try to figure out this balance. And that's kind of where that, like I was talking about from editing the documentaries, and I loved putting those pieces of people's stories together to create this at the end. That's what it is like trying to diagnose and treat with acupuncture. You're like taking pieces of the story and trying to create it and see like, okay, is this the way that it needs to be balanced? Or, they come back next week and they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Or I felt better, but then a couple days later it crept back in. It's like, okay, maybe we need a little more of this. And
Yeah.
so, it's a fun dynamic part of treating like the individual person instead of just their pain or their digestive issues or their allergies or their, immunity issues. That's what brings people in, of course, any kind of discomfort. It really is a complete medical system. So
Mhm.
people call all the time and ask my office manager, does acupuncture treat carpal tunnel syndrome? Or does acupuncture treat hemorrhoids? Does acupuncture treat hair loss? And the answer is always yes, because we're treating you as an individual. And
Yeah.
then, try to, with the branches that start to get, discomfort in them.
It's almost like, acupuncture was one of the first holistic therapies,
Yeah,
or medicines. I'm not going to say therapy because it is medicine. It's just a different viewpoint than what we're used to in the Western world.
exactly. It predates. I mean, my teacher says that the acupuncture channels predate humanity, which is like a really wild thing to think about. But like,
Sure.
did the channels, they're more esoteric, they're, not as tangible. Like, is that spirit help create the form, And so that's a really like a fun thing to think
Oh,
about.
we're going to have a part two.
Definitely. I know I told you, I'm like, I don't know if I can keep it to 20, 30 minutes. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, it's all so very enlightening and interesting to just, when I opened myself up to, because I, like you, I think, you know, Western medicine, allopathic medicine never really answered the problem. It might have treated a symptom, like if I'm congested, I can take this pill and maybe it'll dry me up a little bit or it'll, change the symptom. But why am I congested? And going to the root of the problem, I think this is one of the things that acupuncture, at least in my life, has been so, yeah, the word enlightening just keeps coming to mind. And we go back again to that idea of bringing the light in
Yeah.
to the darkness of, what are the issues, and, having someone like you in our corner to be able to comb through all of that and figure out what is the actual issue. And as we peel back the layers, similar in the work that I do, you peel back the layers and you realize, oh, this wasn't this at all. It was really something else. And so when people come to see you, Megan, do you see people like on one off, or do you usually recommend that somebody come for a series of, or does it depend on the issue?
It does depend on the issue, but for the most part, people need to come somewhat regularly, especially in the beginning, because what we're trying to do is retrain the body. We're trying to retrain the way that it communicates, really. So we're giving it messages, and we usually send people home with lifestyle advice. So if we're trying to build, so there's like the yin and the yang energies. So the yin is the more fluid, the more dense energy. The yang is the circulation, the movement. So we're trying to balance these energies in certain organs. So if we're telling a patient, okay, we're trying to build up your yin. This is the messages we're giving the body. This is the acupressure we want you to do at home. These are the foods that you can eat to build yin. This is the time of day you should do it in. This is, try to go to sleep before this time. It was certain like homework for them because we're trying to retrain it. We need like all hands on deck. Um, and then they come back ideally in about a week, and we're giving the same message to the body. Often we'll give herbs to take at home too, like Chinese herbal formulas that are same, giving that message to the body to build up yin energy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, so typically I kind of across the board recommend people come in once a week for 3 weeks, and then we see from there what they need. And people often after that, acupuncture brings out a sense of awareness almost immediately.
Mhm.
Awareness of maybe our posture, like, oh, that's why my shoulder's been hurting, or awareness of, oh, this person in my life is so toxic. How did I not see that? Or awareness of my body does not like this food. Um, and whether we listen or not, the awareness comes out. So after that third session, patients usually themselves kind of know, oh yeah, I definitely need to keep coming weekly, or let's see if I can go every 2 weeks and see what happens.
Mhm.
Um, and I usually, once we kind of get someone out of either pain or discomfort, or we get them to a place where they feel good, I usually recommend people come in monthly or every 3 weeks or so for maintenance, just to keep everything flowing in our body. Because when things are flowing, that's when there's no disease. So
Yeah.
things are flowing, we're just building up the immune system. We're, nourishing the digestive system. We're harmonizing the brain and all that that's taking in on a daily basis. We're detoxifying the liver and all that, you can eat as clean as you want. There's toxins all around us. So
Mhm.
pushing that out, acupuncture is really detoxing. So typically I recommend people come weekly until they get to a place where they feel really comfortable, and then kind of spread it out, and then ideally monthly. A lot of our pediatric patients, especially because they heal so fast, sometimes it's like they come 3 times and they never have allergies again in their life. Like it's really,
Amazing.
really, 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 really miraculous. And when I first started treating pediatrics, I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm just like tapping on them for like 5 minutes. Like, I don't know. I kind of made that up. We'll see what happens. And like it's their ability to self-heal is fascinating to witness. So then same thing. We usually just recommend they come in like once a month or so. If they're more, if they're immunosuppressed, and then that case we'll say, okay, come in every other week in the winter and then you'll be fine. So, things like that. It is a case by case basis, but I have never treated someone only one time and they've gotten where they need to be. Although that being said, there's some like amazing, amazing treatments where one time their whole life has changed. Like women who come in for, they've had like, there's one particular woman had, I think, 3 failed IVF for fertility, in vitro fertilizations. She had 3 failed ones, was just coming in for stress management because of, all the toll it took on her.
Sure.
And one treatment and she got pregnant. you know, yeah. A woman came in recently, months and like, I think like 8 months of like terrible palpitations. One treatment, that was all gone.
Beautiful.
We're working on other things
Hmm.
that cause the palpitations in the first place, but you can definitely see really miraculous things happen with one treatment.
It's amazing. I just want to mention, we're kind of coming to time now, that you also do have a podcast called Megan's Medicine.
I
So
do.
we'll put that in the show notes, how people can find that and listen to more of you and what you share with the world. And when people do want to work with you or they want to check you out, how do they find you?
So my business is Jersey Shore Acupuncture. So you can Google us. We're on Instagram, Jersey Shore Acupuncture. Um, yeah, our website, and we're in Wall Township, and yeah, I talk a lot about acupuncture on my podcast. I haven't done an episode in over a year now. We moved last year. We moved our office to a much bigger location, hired more people. So it's been awesome, but like a real undertaking. And with three kids at home, like some things, don't get the attention that I would like to give them. But this is like this is re-inspiring me. So I'm hoping to do another episode soon.
Oh,
But yeah, I started it same as you to like just connect people and show them the like amazing number of holistic modalities and ways to transform your life and yourself and like uplift, you know what I mean? Sometimes we just transform, like it has to be this huge thing, but even just this like uplifting
yeah,
and learning about what's around us. And I teach a lot about like yin and yang and the five elements. And it's a really fun way to like learn more about yourself and then learn more about others, and then
yes.
you know how to forgive yourself and forgive others, So that the five element like personality has been really fun to teach too.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming to
Sure.
chat with me today. And yeah, I just want to say to our listeners, I hope this has been enlightening for you. And, check Megan out. She is amazing. And yeah, have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.